Paul Mohlman was relaxing at home, watching TV, and enjoying the comfort of solitude. The Tennessee resident was the only one around. He felt calm, serene. Then he heard it, a strange sound coming from the other room. Maybe something fell, was Paul's first thought. Maybe a breeze blew through an open window. Quickly, however, he realized the source of the sound was much more complicated than what he'd anticipated.
Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos.
Paul Mohlman didn't always live in the South. He was born in New Jersey. However, after graduating from Rutgers University with a degree in engineering, he packed up and made the big move. He had no idea what awaited him there. On a bright winter morning in the last week of November 2019, Paul was resting when he heard a thud coming from his roommate's bedroom. It sounded like something fell, something heavy, he said, but his roommate wasn't home. Paul was rightly unsettled by this sound, so he got up to investigate. He opened the door to his roommate's bedroom and cautiously entered, having no idea about the strange sight that awaited him. Inside the room, he noticed an out-of-place arrangement. There was a pipe that he didn't recognize laying on the floor. Even more concerning, right beside it was a hole that had been punched straight through to a crawlspace beneath the house. Now Paul was getting concerned. His heart racing, he peered through the hole and looked into the crawlspace. He was met with the shock of his life. Staring back at him from the hole was a single eye. His worst fears had been realized. There was a person down there. It was a Caucasian dude. He wasn't wearing a shirt. He had no shoes on, Paul remarked. He started interrogating him. "What are you doing down there?" he remembers asking him. "Did the landlord call you? Are you here to work on the plumbing?" Then the man replied something incoherent and shifted around. He looked like he was trying to hide. Clearly, he was not the plumber. Frustrated with the lack of response, Paul realized the situation was rapidly escalating. He had to take more serious steps to protect himself and his home. Grabbing his .22 caliber firearm, he informed the man that he was in possession of a gun. "I let him know that I have a gun," Paul reflected, "and I said, 'I don't want to shoot you, but what are you doing?'" He called the police and they arrived quickly. However, even the authorities had a hard time luring the man out of his hiding place. Finally, the cops successfully brought the suspect out of the crawlspace. Paul was surprised. This suspect wasn't a shirtless white man. He was black and he was wearing a shirt, but no pants or shoes. At the moment, I sort of forgot about that part and was like, "Oh, they got the guy. I saw it wrong. They got the guy," Paul reported. Soon he'd be in for an even bigger shock when the man uttered some words that were comprehensible. The suspect said he'd spilled acid on himself. At first, police were unsure if this was true. But then, outside the house, investigators spotted a pile of random clothes and also a bottle of hydrochloric acid. Finally, believing the frightening situation had come to a close, Paul went to get a badly needed drink at a nearby bar. He began chatting with the bartender, telling him about the terrifying ordeal. Then the bartender revealed an anxiety-inducing piece of information. Paul showed the bartender a photo he'd taken of the man being detained, to which the bartender replied, to Paul's shock, that he actually recognized the man. He'd seen him hanging around the bar only the night before, but he hadn't been alone. To confirm this guy was the same person who'd been sneaking around Paul's house, the bartender pulled up surveillance footage from that night. The clip showed two people messing around outside the venue, the detained suspect and the white guy he'd seen initially. All of Paul's fears from earlier in the traumatic day came rushing back. He hadn't been wrong before. He should have trusted his instincts. All the alarm bells were raised, and he now had reason to believe that his house hadn't been cleared of unwanted intruders. The homeowner phoned the police for the second time that day. Authorities reviewed the surveillance footage for themselves, then returned to Paul's house to execute a second search. They found the crawlspace below to be empty, but this wasn't the end of the fiasco. Paul went to sleep, still feeling slightly uneasy, but still having faith that the officials had done their jobs. Hours later, he woke up feeling unusually cold and went to check out the wires controlling the house's heat. And to his shock and dismay, he found that the men had cut the wires. He He called for emergency repairs in the middle of the night, but chose not to file a police report. He didn't think the men belonged in jail, but rather needed psychiatric help. Police confirmed that the black suspect had been to UT Medical Center as a result of his erratic and unstable behavior, while the search continued for the white suspect. Still a little unnerved, Paul felt good about the situation. They could have easily escalated to deadly violence had Paul not been careful. Horror stories from those who'd acted rashly when they believed there was an intruder in the home left him feeling grateful he reacted the way he did, because just nearby a woman wasn't so lucky. Please share this story with your friends and family.